The honor is all mine. This is a very important, I wanted to start giving, recognition to all the important people that are sitting here, but I decided that I'm not going to name everybody, so everybody who sits here, so I'm just going to say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me. The honor is mine. And before starting, I wanted to say that I think we all need to thank the European Union and the program that is represented here by Mr. Smith for long period of collaboration, and we're looking forward for an even longer period of future collaboration with you. This has been a big success for us, and we believe that we contributed to the process as well. And I want to also express our admiration that despite the economic difficulties in Europe and elsewhere in the world, European Union is going forward with a very ambitious program, the Horizon to 2020, and it's very important to everybody, both Europe and everybody who is trying and collaborating with you. So thank you very much. I was asked to talk about sort of putting this in the Israeli R&D, looking backwards and forwards into macroeconomic perspective. And anybody who's paid any attention to Israeli economy in the last 20, 25 years, it's hard to miss that the Israeli economy has been moving forward mainly because of advances and utilization of technology and science. And we hope to continue to do that, because this is our comparative advantage. We're a small country. We have small markets. We cannot rely on local markets. We cannot rely. We have to be forward-looking. We have to be outward-looking. We have to collaborate with other countries. We have to help and get help in scaling up the ideas that generated here together with others, and this is the essence of the program, and therefore it's very important for us. I mean, it's clear that R&D is the driver of the Israeli economy, and we are spending, not surprisingly, this is a very important part of the Israeli economy. About 50% of Israeli exports are due to this sector, and the Israeli economy is about 40–50% of the Israeli economy is based on exports. So this sector is extremely important for Israeli economy, and we are spending very high amounts as a country, very high amounts on civilian R&D. In addition, we're also spending on non-civilian R&D, which has some spillover effects to the civilian ones, so that the total expenditure is very high. We also have the R&D alone is not enough. You need entrepreneurial skills, you need scientific research, information technology today, innovative capacity, and all those we seem to score pretty well in the international comparisons. And this is not surprising, but good, because if we weren't there, we would not be successful in the areas we've been successful in the last 15–20 years. Even though, if you go back to the time when I came to this country in '77 or even in the mid-'80s, if you would tell somebody in the mid-'80s that Israel would be known for its exports of software and hardware to the world, people would laugh at you. And I actually spoke with people who tried to do that, sort of early stage developers of companies, and they said that people actually did laugh at them. I mean, we were known in the '70s as exporters of diamonds and oranges. Okay, this is a big shift to a different, and we needed all those skills to pull this off. In terms of government R&D support, first of all, it must be known that Israeli R&D, the vast majority of it is financed by the private sector. I mean, the government is augmenting the private sector and trying to help it, but it's not the main part. The main part is private. And the public resources are spent in the areas where it can really push things ahead and where they add the most value, whether it's promoting really novel technologies which are still too young to be financed by the private sector, whether connecting the ideas coming from the universities to the industry, whether it's leveraging existing resources that are coming from the private sector to reducing the risks, whether it's intervening in really high-risk stages. It's extremely important. The international collaboration is extremely important in that respect, because for the reasons that I'll indicate a little later. And in some areas where we need coordination between various forces to enter new fields, it's very useful when the government sort of provides a little bit more coordination, a little bit more push. And the government support is also important to provide certainty to the market. Okay, and that's why it's very important in the times of financial turmoil and shrinking private investments. And therefore, it's both the Israeli government was not cutting significantly the support for the R&D. And even in the time of crisis, actually some parts of that support, especially the universities, were increased. And this is where the EU program is so impressive, that in the time of great need and great cuts in the budgets, it's the easiest part is to cut the future, but it's very dangerous to do so. But we see this program and sort of ourselves in light of past successes, but also in light of new challenges that we're facing, because the world around us is changing very rapidly. We have changes in demographics, both in the developed world and even more in the developing world. There is urbanization at unprecedented levels. We are seeing incredible number of people suddenly shifting from lifestyle that was $1-2 per day into the lifestyle which is sort of start resembling the developed countries, and that implies huge amounts of resources that are needed. The shift in economic power, we've seen that China is overcoming, and India together overcoming everybody else in terms of sheer economic power, not because of their high income per capita, but because of their sheer numbers. And that is not going to change. And Brazil and Russia and other countries, Indonesia, these are all giant countries. And they are rapidly increasing their share of world production and of world. And the question is, how do we adjust to that? I mean, this represents challenges, but it represents great opportunities, both for Europe and for Israel. And in some of those cases, we could do better together than apart. Of course, when I say we, Europe and Israel, I always, we should keep the proportions, right? I mean, we are, but still, it's a nice we. It's always nice to but so I just don't want to be accused of delusions of grandeur, right? I always say that we should know the size of the country, but the size of the country doesn't limit the size of imagination, and we're pretty good on that dimension. And then all those environmental concerns, of course, are amounting as we are trying to extract much more out of fixed amount of resources, land, water, clean air, etc. And we definitely, and when we become richer, we want to breathe cleaner air and drink cleaner water. And so these two things, but at the same time, we want to eat more meat and more. Those require. So these two trends are essentially contradicting each other, and the challenge is how do you combine those? And those challenges essentially bring us to manifestation, whether they would be in Europe, in the United States, and especially in the developing world, is the challenges to sustainability. Where are we going to get our supply of energy, food, and water? This is very, very basic. I mean, Israel has been known in the areas of ICT, maybe biotech, but we are now going to challenges. We're facing as a world the challenges that are different from those fields. Those fields could be put in use to assist, but the main issue is not how to communicate better in your cellular phone. The question is how to provide basic energy to billions of people that want more energy. They want washing machines, they want cars, and they want all the things that we take for granted. And here it turns out that we need to adapt, but it turns out that on all those fields, we seem to be in pretty good position in Israel. And not because we were smart to think ahead, 50 years ahead of time, it's just that we've been placed by God Almighty into the place where you have no energy until recently, very little land, and not very friendly land, and very, very little water. And so we had to do with all that for the last 100+ years, and in the last 50 years since the establishment of the state, we've been doing that pretty well. You know, we are incredibly efficient in terms of use of water. We are one of the most efficient countries, you know, in terms of reuse of water. We're the number one. We're getting close to 85% reusing municipal water. The second country in the world in Europe is Spain, with about 17. Okay, that's the difference. It's not because we were somehow smarter than everybody else. It's just because we didn't have any water. We had to do with that. And so we actually pretty well positioned to leverage what we've learned and how we developed it to actually provide solutions together with others. And we're not saying that we have a monopoly on those solutions, but we are essentially a lab that has been tested for 50 years, and certain things we know that can be done and certain things cannot be done. In terms of our current export destination, we have two large areas in which Europe and United States are the largest two. They represent together about maybe 70% of our exports. And there's been other countries have been declining in percentage terms, and China and India have been rising over time. You know, the growth, the high growth will be generated in those countries, in Brazil's and the Indias and the Chinas of the world, and whether it's European companies or Israeli companies, this is where they're going to look for the new markets, for the delta in their sales, and this is something that we need to understand and to try to exploit to help them to do it better together. So the solutions that we provide together, the European companies and the Israeli companies provide to these markets, are more economical, more efficient, more sustainable, and actually benefit us all, both in terms of sustainability and in terms of economic benefit that accrue to our economies. So the way we see it, the new Israeli challenge is to provide solutions in the areas in which we have some expertise, but we've not been known too widely in the world. And these are the areas in which the world needs them the most in the coming years. And these are the world sustainability challenges: energy, food, and water. All those areas require ideas, but they also require huge investments and the ability to scale up these ideas, test these ideas, which can be done here or in smaller countries, but you need big countries to scale up the ideas. An idea, a good idea that is applied to a small economy is a small idea. When it's applied to a large economy, it becomes a big idea. Okay, because the scale is not, you can't scale it here. And so the European companies have, apart from what they know in terms of the knowledge and the ability, technological abilities, engineering abilities, they have a great knowledge of accessing foreign markets and scaling up projects. And this is where we feel a natural connection between the European companies and us and the Israeli companies, because Israeli companies lack scale but have ideas that they can develop together with the European companies in other fields. But the innovation, with all the things that we were talking, innovation is part of the process. You need both research infrastructure and ability to develop large fields. Small market, in addition to scaling up and access to the markets, you need research infrastructure that is being supported by large economies. And this is something that we lack, and this is why access to the European networks and to the program, to like FP7 or the coming up program, is so extremely important to us. It's the scale and the infrastructure and the knowledge that's been accumulated in these programs over the last 150 years. It's a long-standing tradition. And the idea of having Israel and Europe going each separately, there may be an improvement in this process by going into joint ventures and coming together. This does not, of course, imply that everything will be done together, but there is definitely potential for strong cooperation. And we feel that the program offers a very good platform for that cooperation. And this is where Israel and we sort of try to think about what is the importance from the macro point of view of this collaboration. And we see very rapid changes in technologies because of the rapid changes in needs. And in rapid changes in technologies, you need critical mass of research, of technology development that has to be invested. And so no single country can do it because the scales, well, maybe, United States has a sheer mass. Europe as a body has a mass. But it's difficult, it's very difficult for a small country to really get into new technologies because of scale. And there are definitely economies of scale in even identifying and guiding the economy into new research and development fields. And so the idea here is how do we essentially becoming part of major trends that are led or even dictated by large economies that decide to invest massive amounts of resources, knowledge, money, expertise into developing new fields. I mean, if we're not there, we stay out of this process that is very dangerous for us. It seems to me because it's the path that needs to be walked together. And so we sort of looked at the ICERD or the collaboration of Israel, of which ICERD is the program. But I'm talking generically collaboration with the major trends or major initiatives of the European Union, is that, first of all, we need help in direction, because in some sense, you have two parts in this. First of all, it's the recognition of where the world is going. That requires, I must tell you that, we've been trying to do this. It requires enormous resources, enormous access to knowledge, and enormous access to very varying opinions of people to figure out where the hell the whole thing is going. It's difficult. So we definitely want to be in the process of deciding or figuring the direction and having access to the ideas that follow through this process. Like having, for example, the important part of the process is to be evaluators, reviewers of the process. You can see what people are thinking. If you're not in this process, you don't have access to this information. I can tell you that when I was an editor of a scientific journal, you learn a lot where the field is going by just reading what people are writing about. And this is extremely important. And so that's why people in academia are volunteering to become referees and editors. This is definitely not a lucrative occupation, as many of you know, because you know where the field is going. So this is no different. And so the second thing is that verification. Suppose that we figured out somehow that we want to go in a particular field. How do we know that we're any good at it? Okay, this is you need always to have. And again, I bring the example of the academy. We don't have a field of Israeli economics, and we sort of all being cooked in that little field. Then we'll sort of stray away. We are all competing in the world of world economics, and we're all putting our ideas for judgment of everybody in the world, and so does everybody else. And that's how the science advances. This is a perfect example how we put our ideas of our companies or our technologies into the big pool, and we compete within the big pool. Then if you win in the big pool, you know that you're not just your local smart kid, you're a smart kid on the global scale. This is extremely important for verification of actually And so the alternative would be is to finance it all locally, but then you lack that verification. Then there's, of course, certification advertisement. A company or a scientist who get access to these grants get verification and get certified that they can access world-renowned programs, institutions, and experts, and they feel this is very important to establishing, in terms of the science of reputation, in terms of a company, it's like an advertisement. You can get financing. And of course, the last but definitely not the least, is the collaboration that it allows between Israeli scientists and European scientists, and Israeli companies and European companies. For all these reasons, we believe that this, from the macro point of view, this is a very important collaboration effort. And so, wait again, I think it's a very important initiative, and we applaud for the not simple political decisions not to cut and not to become modest in developing the future, and we're definitely trying to follow the same path. Thank you very much.